then I will open the public hearing. And I'd like to remind those that were here from the previous that we're not going to review the application that was already presented at the last one, and those comments that perhaps if you spoke at the last one, your comments were recorded and they are of record. Tonight the idea is to focus on the changes, and so at this time I will move forward with Mr. Garcia. Do we have any speakers?
Oh, yes. First speaker, Pete Keith.
Commissioners, my name's PK and I'm one of the Grizzly Ridge homeowners that you've seen some drawings about our backyards. We're the most affected by this Camelia project, and I'll just speak in general terms with my allotted time. Other speakers will address specifics in detail. Along with the mayor of Marietta and Ben Benoit, some of you have visited our backyards and have come away with a much different view of what impact this project will have on our privacy and our property values. A view not ever shown in Mr. Markham's slideshow. I would hope that during this meeting, we hear your feelings on how Mr. Markham chose to ignore your suggestion, as Mr. Bassi put it, to work with us from the last planning board meeting. He ignored to do that, and I'd also like to know if you're pleased that he's gone behind and met with a few of the planning board and the city council, and then posted all of this on your website. We weren't aware of it. Mr. Bassi stopped me after the council meeting last week and said, oh, by the way, the stuff is on the website. I don't consider that to be ethical. I think it was behind the door, and it shouldn't have been done that way. I've invited Mr. Markham and etc. to our backyard to take pictures, not digital drawings, pictures of what it would look like. We've seen end building frosted windows. All of the fascia of this 150-foot long buildings are not treated with any glass. And the trees that they've referenced them in the past, and we understand that in 5 years they might be that big. Now, if that's changed, I'm not aware of that either. But as they string those buildings up that hill, they look back, and all of those front buildings have a clear view into our properties from that elevation. We have done our due diligence in an honest, respectful manner. We have awakened Wildomar voters' potential problem if this project gets evolved. It's a bad design, a bad relations picture. It's unfit location. It's time for you to show your voting citizens that government does work. Local politics needs to set a standard. Our national politics is ugly. Nobody listens to the voters, and I think this representation should tell you something. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
Yes, next we have Tim Huizinga with a total of 6 minutes with donated time by Claire McCall.
Good evening. First and foremost, my name is Tim Huizinga. I'm a resident of Marietta. I bought my house along the Marietta-Wildomar city line due to the rural and less crowded style of that area. Before purchasing my home, I reviewed the zoning of the property around me and was pleased to find that the adjacent land was completely in compliance with the surrounding community. There were no apartments, condos, or townhouses anywhere along the Wildomar border in Marietta, only single-family homes. You can imagine my disappointment when I heard about this proposed project. This project completely, you have my first picture up? This project, let's see here. You can imagine my disappointment when I heard about the proposed project. This project completely ruins my plans for retirement. I have grandchildren that frequently visit and swim in my pool with their friends. I cannot comfortably enjoy my backyard with my family, my friends, with my privacy being invaded. Secondly, it's very upsetting to find out that a past planning commissioner, not Mr. Bassi, I want to be very clear, it is not Mr. Bassi, stated, "We don't want to waste our commercial property on putting condos, apartments, townhouses on the land. Let's just put them against the Marietta and Elsinore, Lake Elsinore property lines." You can see the drawing up there, go to number 2. Here's the problem with that. According to Wildomar Municipal Code 17.180.10 standards for planned residential development, the maximum permitted density and height limits may be reduced if it is determined to be necessary for the planning development to achieve compatibility with the area in which the development is located. In other words, you shouldn't be putting condos up against residential neighborhoods. So how in the world is this compatible with our community? Number 3. As you can see here, these buildings are big. In fact, they're 27 feet tall. There's going to be 30 buildings with 6 units per building, and the ground floors are 3 feet above the top of my back fence. You can see my issues. Oh, by the way, they're going to move these buildings 13 feet back and add a 6-foot garden wall. Sounds like a good place for kids to hide and play. I don't know if that's a hedge or what. But 13 feet, that's 2 of these. 2 of these, 13 feet. Now tell me, does that make a 27-foot tall building simply hide or disappear? Give me a break. I'm actually here to talk about the dangers my family, as well as the entire family of our track, will face if this project is pursued. I'm not concerned about the frosted windows in the ends of the buildings, but I am worried about the line of sight from the side windows, the garage doors, the landscape, etc., etc. Our backyards and several front yards will be viewed from these vantage points. Number 5, if you can. Viewed from these vantage points so high above our fences. Criminals and kids will know when we come and go to work, when we take our kids to school. They'll know when we pack up and leave on vacation. The list goes on. I'm retired, so I leave a lot. I don't want to have to constantly be concerned if my home is safe. After the line of sight, from the line of sight, you can watch me load my motorhome, gather my wife and grandkids, and head out for the weekend or even longer. I guarantee when I return, my home will be ransacked inside and out. Now, what do? Who do I call? Marietta Police stated that if they don't witness a person climbing my back fence, they will not pursue the perpetrator. The Wildomar Police, if it didn't happen in their town, they say it's not their issue. And what is to keep the kids and the criminals from coming in my backyard in the middle of the night, going out my front gate, breaking into cars, homes throughout our entire neighborhood? We're talking home invasions, grand theft, burglary, etc., etc., etc. Having such good vantage points and routes, this allows criminals to carry out their activities while having a lookout to keep watch for incoming cops or neighbors. The scout can then send a text alerting the associates what's happening. The end result is scramble through our yards, back over the fences, and dissolve into 163 units before the police can even get out of their car or park. We aren't asking for much. We just want to be able to come and go as we want without worries and enjoy our privacy and security of our yards, our friends, our neighbors, kids, and grandkids. I by no means am against construction for development. In fact, I've been a contractor since 1971. There's a sensible way of doing this. I could support the proposal of backyard-to-backyard single-family homes. I realize there would be a little less money for the city and a little less profit for the developer, but it would preserve the rural appearance and feel of Wildomar, especially when entering your beautiful city from the south. Thank you for giving me your time.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
Very good. Good job, Betty.
We have Eve Heisinger.
Why am I up there already?
Hi, Council. My name is Ev Heisinger, and I live right behind, directly behind where these new condos are supposed to be. In fact, it was up there on the board. I am out there with my granddaughter, and she is in Indian Guides with all her friends. They always have a picnic. They always have a sit out for the weekend and a barbecue in our backyard once or twice during the year. We're gonna have the condos with the garages and everybody up there working out in the backyard and stuff, looking in our backyard. They can see every inch of what's going on in our backyard. Also, the view from the top of where the condos are can see right in our bedroom, exactly right in our bedroom door. And then if we're in the pool,
There's a
all they have to
bedroom
do is come up to the wall, and there they are. So I'm very concerned about the privacy that we have in our yard, so. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't want a bunch of screaming, yelling, and the cars going in and out, and kids were working in their garages and saying, oh, look at down there, and they're all, hanging around the fence looking in everybody's backyard. We all have pools. In the summertime, we're all out in the backyard. And I think that's gonna end, unfortunately, when this happens. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Mr. Garcia. Amber Tree.
Good evening. My name is Amber Tree. I live on Mountain Breeze Drive. I'm a mom to 2 young boys, and I'm also a realtor. I've been selling real estate here in the Valley since my family and I moved out here 4 years ago. I stand before you tonight to strongly oppose the builder's request for this zoning change. You will hear quite a few members of our community speak this evening, and while I wholeheartedly agree with all of their concerns, I'm here specifically to speak to one. That is the severe impact that this proposed project will have on homes, the home values of not just our community in Grizzly Ridge, but the impact that will trickle for miles and miles into Wildomar and all throughout Marietta. I understand the Camelia project plans to have a list price in the mid-300s. I personally have sold real estate all through the city of Marietta, specifically in Madison Park and the Arboretum, for low to mid-200,000s. These properties are in the heart of the city with access to the highly sought-after Marietta School District. Because I've sold real estate in Wildomar as well, I understand the market, and I just don't see that price point sticking, which then in turn will affect our home values. As a realtor who's well-versed on the market conditions and how they influence value, I can assure you this project will have serious consequences regarding the value of our homes, the investments that we have worked so hard for. We've had appraisers come out. They've come, they've walked the site, they've been in our yards, and they agree we will have a serious depreciation, upwards of 20%. There's no questions that our properties will depreciate. From traffic to wear and tear to obstruction of views, we will undoubtedly suffer a deficit on potential future sales. Not to mention the 2+ years of construction, noise, debris, and the safety for our residents. Buyers who choose to purchase homes in our community of Grizzly Ridge pay a certain price specifically for that type of community and all that it offers with its charm and its privacy. This project will completely wipe out the attraction that has helped move real estate in Grizzly Ridge for the last 18 years. The original RR designation was put in place for a reason. Changing the zoning to anything else completely goes against the cohesiveness of Wildomar, which is widely known for its semi-rural and rural property. As an expert in my field who has a pulse on what buyers are looking for, I implore you to keep the authenticity of your city intact. Keep the zoning to its original designation and build ranch-style single families on large lots. This is more in line with the inventory the market currently demands. If anything, I encourage the commission to hold off on any zoning changes until the builder can provide all Grizzly Ridge residents a detailed pro forma on how this project will benefit or impact our home's values and what measures they plan to take to
I'm sorry, but your time's
to ensure we're compensated for our depreciation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine McCall.
Hello all. I'm Catherine McCall. I live on Kodiak Court. I've been a member of the community for 2.5 years now. A little background about my family. We're a military family. My husband's been a Marine for 21 plus years now, and I don't see him leaving anytime soon. He's also in avionics, which for my family that means he goes wherever his helicopters go. Due to his frequent deployments, community safety is a high priority for us because community safety equals family safety. Community safety is ultimately why we chose our home. That being said, the rezoning of the land adjacent from our home is greatly concerning to me because there are multiple studies that conclude high-density residencies render higher crime, and not just petty crime where material, replaceable things are jeopardized. These studies indicate that high-density residents are victims of serious crimes, rape, assault, and in some cases even murder. Now, initially I thought that there had to be trackable facts beyond population that could provide insight into the link between high-density residence areas and violent crime. So I began looking through peer-reviewed research to hope to find common elements to ease my concerns about the project. I found quite the opposite. For example, a study conducted in Purdue University, which placed ample parameters on the criteria for the study's data collection. These researchers looked at socioeconomical factors and cross-referenced them with land use, both commercial and residential, and all the blends thereof related to crime. The researchers found, and I quote, may I have my slide, please? There seems to be something about high-density residential units that is associated with all types of serious violent crime, even controlling for other factors in the model. Apparently, high-density housing units promote serious violent crime, end quote. These controlling factors in this quote refer to population size, income values, religious affiliation, unemployment, family disruption. They ran the gamut in this study. And even accounting for all these variables, the researchers still found that across the U.S., high-density residential areas are subject to higher violent crime rates. Now, I haven't shared my safety concerns with my Marine because my job as a military spouse is to make sure he knows that everything on the home front is okay, so that he can do his job and take care of himself and his Marines. So I come here tonight to voice my concerns with you all, and I implore you to vote with a community-first mindset. Thank you.
Please, folks, no clapping. Thank you for that. Mr. Garcia.
Trudy Curry.
My name is Trudy Curry. I'm a 14-year resident of Wildomar. I oppose the Camelia Communities project because it is not in keeping with the community feel or fit for Wildomar. Our city leaders talk about this project as medium-high density, while in reality it exceeds the high-density definition for this type of development. If a developer came to the city and asked to build a high-density development on the 17 acres that Camelia Communities project is building on, they would be turned down. Due to the way Wildomar computes the number of high-density units, if this is allowed, the owner is allowed to compute the density on 29 purchased acres, even though some are unusable and some are designated for a road extension. My second issue is Wildomar City streets. Wildomar does not maintain the streets that we currently have in our city. I have been trying for 2 years to get some repairs done to Union and Wesley streets as they are in poor condition. Palomar Street is one of the 2 streets affected by the Camelia project, is in need of repair, and is a rural winding road. It is not fit to pack between 800 and 1,000 additional cars on each day for a commute. High-density builds should be placed with easy access to freeways, shopping, and entertainment. This project is not close to any of those options in Wildomar. All would be a commute for Camelia residents. When I moved to Wildomar, it was for the rural residential atmosphere. There is a strategic vision plan that the city adopted when we became a city. Looking at the general map plan, there are no longer rural residential properties available for this type of development on the west side of the 15 freeway and very few on the east side. Wildomar needs to put together a committee that would be more compatible with our zoning map and more in keeping with the strategic vision plan that the residents asked for. Thank you.
Next, we have Rupert Kinsey, with donated time by Dave Creighton and Dina Kinsey for a total of 9 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to just state, I hope you rule against Resolution 2017-8, which is the RR to R3 rezoning, to minimize the impact and maintain the surrounding area. If you go to the next slide, please. I'm going to provide an overview of the elevations around the proposed project. I put together a diagram of the elevations and distances between our house and the proposed condos. There will also be a few pictures depicting the impact and effect of the surrounding neighborhood, all the homes along this wall. And we'll conclude with a review of our concerns. One of the things before I get started, I wasn't aware of anything that was proposed for the changes. I took Ms. Langworthy's thing from last time we were here, that they'd move it back 5 feet or what have you. So they did have the 20, and I incorporated that 5 feet into this presentation. Next slide, please. This slide provides an overview of the elevations recorded between the city planning departments of Wildomar and Murrieta. The red dots represent the location and results of the elevation readings provided by both cities. Working from right to left, you will notice the elevations recorded at the junction of Wildomar and Murrieta on Washington Boulevard is 1,180 feet high. The foundations for the homes by the junction start at 1,192 feet, which is 12 feet higher than the Washington Boulevard. The red line between our house and the cul-de-sac on Starbuck Circle is roughly 300 yards in distance. I know this only from the fact I walked it. It's 300 steps. We looked at Google Maps, took their little thing on there to gauge it. It was actually less than that. But that's roughly what we see. The elevation difference between our house and the cul-de-sac is also 12 feet, which is the same as Washington Boulevard. If you go north on Washington from the Murrieta border, or from right to left through the S-curve, the street raises 7 feet before it resides back to 1,181 feet near the bridge, or also known as a wash. The Camelia project is published. The first condo have its foundation built at 1,201 feet, which is 9 feet higher than our home's foundation, and 21 feet higher than that of the cul-de-sac on Starbuck Circle or Washington Boulevard. But the foundation of the condos will be nearly the same distance from Washington as our house. During the initial meeting with the builder, one of the requests was to lower the elevations to be more in line with the existing home elevations. The S-curve portion of Washington will need to be rebuilt anyways, so why not lower to minimize the impacts and the effects in the surrounding area? The response provided was it was cost prohibitive. They told us it would be too expensive to pay for things like the loading and transporting soil to its final destination, costs associated with testing of the soil for contaminants, permits associated with moving excessive amounts of soil, and labor. Then we were informed that the elevations would not be lowered because the proposed design meets the requirements of the city of Wildomar. The reasoning was something to do with the street slope from Jefferson at the top of the hill to be lesser grade and meet the Starbucks circle. The question I have again, with Washington having to be torn apart and the road coming from Jefferson to be rebuilt, or actually be built, could the elevations be established be more consistent with the surrounding area? We hope they'll consider and eventually agree with all of us that the elevations should be lowered. When you look at the next slide, the question that comes to mind is, why would you allow the first buildings along the border to tower over anyone's homes? Mr. Markham has shown you some pictures of 3D. Those elevations are from their point of view looking at us and from ours looking at them. In order to address our concerns, they offered to smoke out the windows facing their yards and plant a few trees that will mature over time to eventually block a portion of their views. They also commented it would be difficult for anyone to see into our pools due to the distance between the proposed condos and the 6-foot wall. What I hope you take away from this picture, is the fact that from my house, it's 29.5 feet from the backslider to the pool. It's a 22-foot wide pool, and it's 8.5 wide gap from my pool to the wall. Proposed was a 25-foot distance from the wall to the condo. That person right there is represented as a 6-foot high person standing at the elevation at 1201 looking down. There's no way you can't see my pool in my backyard. Again, the purpose of this diagram is to demonstrate the residents of the proposed condo has the ability to see in our yards, kitchens, living rooms, master bathrooms, and bedrooms when walking along the condo, where there is no smoked out windows. Next slide, please. The purpose of this diagram is to show everyone from a satellite view where the first proposed condo is expected to reside. The diagram is based off the information derived from the documentation. The homeowners went to the field and measured 25 feet from the block wall and put up PVC pipe as reference points for the beginning and the end of the condo. We used string line with a bubble level to gauge 2 feet off from the foundation to understand the foundation of where the condo will begin. And that was 2 feet from the top of the 6-foot wall. Based on the published information, the front of the building will be directly down the west side of our house, and the back of the proposed condo will be down the east side of our house, or of the building will go down the side yard of my house. The next few slides are a glimpse of proposed elevations associated with this project and the impacts it will have on our neighborhood and our way of living. The yellow dot you see here, though, if you go back real quick, the yellow dot you see represents where we took our first picture, the proposed condo. It's from the edge of our pool. The red dot represents where we took the second picture, which would be looking towards our house from the east side of the building. Now you can go to the next slide, please. From here, this picture is looking from the edge of our pool to the caution tape, which represents the foundation of the Camelia Project's first building. The proposed condos will not only begin at that line, but will protrude upward roughly another 30 feet. Any person, height doesn't matter, that is walking along the side of this condo will be able to see directly into our yards. Now, I do understand they're going to put a green wall there. Wasn't aware of that. But even then, you're still towering above us. Next slide. This picture was taken from atop a 6-foot A-frame ladder, which we weren't quite high enough to represent standing at their foundation. This is looking directly down into our yard. The top of the ladder was, like I said, about 2 feet lower, so when I took this picture, as shaky as it was, you get about a 5-foot high person looking down in. Biggest concern here, as you can see, you're looking directly into my backyard, our kitchen area. What you can see if you walk along is the bathroom. On the left-hand side, we have the curtain shut in our master bedroom. Next slide, please. In closing, the concerns I've raised pertain to the following items. Elevation of the proposed Camelia project. It will have a large impact on the visual effect in the surrounding areas and neighborhoods. Privacy concerns. allowing the Camelia residents to easily see over the 6-foot wall and be able to watch our wives, or my wife, kids, grandkids swimming or playing in our backyards. This will inevitably become a contention point between the two homeowners. For the Camelia residents to have direct visibility into our homes will force us to change our lifestyles, and just simple things like taking a shower and walking in your bedroom. I mean, we have to make sure our windows are closed. And then for the new residents to know when we're leaving, as Tim has stated, because we do have RVs and stuff there when we leave. That is a concern. Other than that, I'd just like to reiterate the primary goal for tonight is to ask council to not approve the rezoning from an RR to an R3. The homeowners would accept, or even just single-family homes, but not high-density residential. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia?
Next, we have Kathy Bundy.
Okay. She gave me one.
We got that.
This one's lettering's so nice I can't really read it.
Oh, page.
Catherine Key.
Oh.
So beautiful.
Good evening.
Could you repeat your name? I couldn't quite hear it in what's left.
Catherine with a C, Key. I would like to take a couple of minutes of your time to tell you how I feel about this project and the effect it's having on me, on my husband and me, and if passed, which will further complications it will cause us. Both my husband and I are senior citizens. We moved from San Diego to Temecula to Murrieta because we wanted to get away from crowds, traffic, and crime. The Murrieta and Wildomar area were just what we were searching for 15 years ago. 2 of our 3 children live here with 7 grandchildren and a brand new grandbaby. This, ladies and gentlemen, was to be our forever home. We did not plan on moving since everything that is important to us is here. We are advancing in age, and it is not easy to pick up and move as it would be for younger families. We have remodeled our home both inside and out and made it comfortable for us for the remainder of our lives. If this project goes through, the lack of privacy and traffic that is sure to come is something both my husband and I will probably not be able to endure. We will be forced to sell the home we love at a loss and start all over again. With various health problems that we both suffer from, a move is a major event in our lives, and one we did not expect to contemplate. Upon retiring, we planned to enjoy our home and grandchildren. I speak for my husband and myself, but I know there are others affected by this project who are in the same position as we are, being senior citizens and having their lives turned upside down. What I am asking you is to look inside yourselves, and if you are a senior or approaching that stage of your life, would you want to be placed in the same position that we are being placed in? Or if you are a youngster and years away from retiring, would you want your parents to have to be placed in this position? I know our children do not. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight and let you know how this project will affect real people, not a corporation out of the state of Florida who does not know us and does not care how they are turning our lives upside down. People are important, and I'm asking you to please remember that when you make your decision on this project. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Kenneth Mays.
I'm not used to speaking after so many eloquent and passionate speakers. As I do not live along the border of this project, I cannot speak for those residents who will be losing their privacy and the loss of monetary value when these townhomes are built. But I do have questions as to the wisdom of this project in Wildomar. Why is this city hell-bent on destroying itself by allowing Palomar Street, a 2-lane rural road that is connected to Washington for well over 100 years, and we love it, be connected to Jefferson Avenue, which of its 5.3 miles in Marietta consists of 3.2 miles currently built to accommodate 6 lanes. That's more than 60% of its current length until until Marietta decides to widen it all the way. The city might be banking on Trump fund money to build Palomar Street out, but we can't even upgrade a far more important road known as Bundy Canyon Road, a regional passageway. With the last of the environmental hurdles overcome on the Mid-County Parkway, Trump money is going to get scarcer as this is a county goal and will outrank Wildomar's dreaming. Other areas that will suffer are our parks, with only 16 of 20 lots paying a Measure Z tax for a grand total of $448 a year of funds subject to oversight. Staff will tell you about the Mello-Roos monies that will be collected to make up the difference, but there's no accountability for those funds. This developer will tell you that the people living in this gated community, separated from the city they wish to build in by block walls, they have their own parks, don't care about our parks. Have you seen anyone play baseball, soccer, or football on a bocce ball court or in a dog park? And what happens when the future HOA decides they want a basketball court rather than a bocce ball court? Who's going to stop them? Not the city, it'll be a civil matter. And the only ones to hear the noise will be our neighbors to the south. The local library gets nothing from this development because the city chose not to have impact fees so they wouldn't overburden the developers. Who suffers? We, the citizens of Wildomar, do. We currently have a library that is, by county standards, 1/3 its ideal size. Our roads will be further destroyed by the 30,000 cars that will daily jam by way of a single lane our pothole-riddled streets as they cross over the unnamed tributary of the Marietta Creek. Only a couple of 100 feet after entering our rural city from the south. Do you think that the folks coming down that hill will be doing 50 miles an hour, the current speed limit, and stopping at a stop sign? Not going to happen. And why are we going to allow Palomar to end short of where it always has? Thank you.
Page, Virgil? Aren't Page and Virgil?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paige Virgil, and I was born in Wildomar and have lived in Marietta my entire life. I'm currently attending UC Davis, and after I graduate UC Davis, I plan to move back to the area to teach, raise a family, and be an active citizen. The house I currently live in is one of the backyards that face the project that is being proposed. I'm a 20-year-old girl who spends a lot of time in my backyard floating in my pool. If this project were to go underway, I would feel completely violated being in my pool or even in my backyard wondering who's watching down on me as a young girl. For example, there was an occasion my mom and I were in the pool and there were several men up on the hill doing work, making us feel very uncomfortable and forcing us to go back inside. All I ask is if you have any daughters, nieces, or sisters that you think about how they would feel having men looking down on them in the privacy of their own home. Additionally, I would like to note that not only will the residents that will be living in these townhomes will have a view into our backyard, but the construction workers will have the same view for years it will take to build this project. Thank you for your time.
Excellent.
Mr. Garcia? Jeff Rhodes?
Thank you for hearing me. Jeff Rhodes, I'm a property owner adjacent to this property on Palomar, and I'll make this simple. I spent 20 years in Marietta and Wildomar trying to get Palomar improved and the Jefferson Avenue Road put together, and we're getting very much closer with this project approval, and I hope you consider that as part of your approvals tonight. Thank you.
Anthony Alanes? Anthony Palanes? Joseph Moravito?
Good evening, Commissioners. There are pros and cons to this project. On the pro side, fear-mongering set to the side, is that modern people are wanting condos more and more, even in a once rural place like Wildomar. I've heard a myriad of things on the con side. Many are legitimate and many are specious, in my opinion. The claims of loss of privacy sound good at first, until we hear the existing residents say they'd be okay with single-family homes. Wouldn't those people have the same prying eyes as people that live in condos? No. If anything, it could be argued that single-family homes would cause greater loss of privacy, with backyards being equipped with pools, like the ones there, which would draw many summer parties. In a condo association, the pool would be far from the border wall, and on a hot day, nobody's going outside anyway. I've heard concerns about property values.
Please, courtesy to the speaker.
I've heard concerns about property values going down. Do some research and you'll see that the market is what drives prices. In a down market, nothing sells, and in an up market, people buy whatever is available. My father was a planning commissioner in Mojave County for about 5 years. If he was here, he'd be looking at the homeowners of Grizzly Ridge and ask them, didn't you see that vacant lot when you bought your house? That said, here are the reasons why I'm against this project as it stands. First, the 2-lane road on Palomar. We know that there will be an increase in traffic with the project, which will also be extending Jefferson. Before any project gets green-lighted by this commission, you need to demand that the 2 lanes over that culvert be converted to 4 lanes. And if they don't want to do it, then they don't want the project that bad. Second, the current elevation of the highest points need to be reduced to no higher than the existing homes. To suggest that 30 feet off the back wall is some type of compromise is silly. For a reference point, 30 feet is half the distance from home plate to first base in a Little League field. Third, and most important in my view, is that you gave a directive to the developer to meet with the residents again to see if they could come to an agreement. You gave them 2.5 months to do it, and the developer chose to ignore your words. If there is any doubt as to why this project was postponed, go back and watch the video I shot of the meeting, around the 40-minute mark. It was all but a direct order for the developer to meet with the residents again. Now, I never thought anything of substance was going to come from such a meeting. But if you reward the developer with a yes vote on this project, even after he disregarded this body's directions, you are setting a very bad precedent. This is obviously a very contentious project, and I know that you'll all weigh the pros and cons before coming to a final vote. Please go on the record when it's your turn to speak as to why you're voting either this way or that way. Thank you.
You've been doing good, folks, now, so.
Next we have Denise Haynes with donated minutes from Nicholas Raines and from Sharon Cartwright for a total of 9 minutes.
Could you repeat who the speaker is again, please?
Denise Haynes. Yeah.
You have it. It's the same one on Robert Kinsey's flash drive I gave you today.
Is it the other PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Denise Haynes, and I'm a resident of Marietta. I raised 2 children here and got them into great colleges from here. I love this place. I can't even tell you how much I love this place. Hearing Paige talk made me think about my kids coming home now. I don't have a pool in my backyard. I'm a farmer. I got everything else in my backyard. But when we bought our land, our house, we knew that there was vacant land behind us. But we also knew what the zoning was. And we counted on you guys to hold up your end of the bargain. Marietta didn't hold up their end of the bargain on a lot of things, like building parks and doing stuff that we needed. So I want you to think about that when you decide, because you need to put community over profits, is what the bottom line is. Our first slide is our concern for loss of privacy, multifamily versus rural. Sorry, I put my glasses on. Was the current proposal of high-density multifamily, multifamily dwellings being built so closely to existing single-family homes, loss of privacy is a major concern. Privacy loss more extreme with high-density multifamily dwellings. Proposed 30 buildings for 163 multifamily townhomes, extremely intrusive. If zoning remains with residential, rural residential, it would be intrusive. Rural residential equals family to family ratio. Next one. Privacy loss due to prying eyes from above looking over into our backyards. Now, as we've talked about this for a while, it's been going on. Going in my master bedroom has become a concern because somebody's going to be looking in my backyard. Now, he can say that he put up a fence and he put up a tree that's going to take forever to grow. But the bottom line is, am I going to be comfortable in my own master bedroom? Now, I'm not worried about my backyard as much as they are because I don't have a pool. But I am concerned about my privacy in my master bedroom. If you look at those homes, they are overlooking us. It's not, I don't understand the reason that they can't just grade the property down and build single family. And if they want to put multifamily, then grade it more so that it's not towering over our homes and over our yards and over our children playing. I don't have any little kids yet, but I hope to have some grandkids at some point. Whether I'm going to be there or not, I want you guys to think about how you'd feel if you bought property knowing that it was rural and then somebody decided to build in back of you. I've heard council member after council member say, then buy the property yourself. Well, we're homeowners, we can't afford to buy the property, and not taking our concerns into account just hurts my heart. Next slide. Now, the Press Enterprise displayed this view in the June 2017 article. This is further up the hill where the grades are different and less intrusive views. So it doesn't look like it's going to bother us, but trust me when I say that those of us that are living on that side of the hill, it's going to bother us. Next one, please. Homes closest and most intrusive view from the townhouses are the ones with the arrows. The Press Enterprise displayed the view from less intrusive viewpoint, where the start of the foundation would be lowered. Next one. If the townhouse project gets approved as proposed, current residents will deal with clear, unobstructed views into backyards, pools, and windows, increased traffic, and increased noise levels. Now, I've heard the impact reports, and the bottom line is we've been living there for probably 18 years. And we knew that the road for Jefferson might go in at some point. I did not ever factor in the townhouse looking over my backyard. I'm just as honest as I can be. It wasn't even in my scope of things. The road, okay, I might have to deal with that at some point. And I kept looking for some sign that it was going to come in. But the townhouse thing never even came to my mind. So the fact that the builder has not even chosen to meet with the residents that live there to understand, I mean, he wants to make money, I get that. But our community means something to us. Next one. Now, the next one. He said that somebody was putting up those signs to not go into, on the property, that's the view from that person had into the yard. Now you think about another 20, 30 feet above that, and how that's gonna feel when somebody's working in their backyard. I'm gonna be perfectly honest, there are times that I wanna run out in the backyard and just pick some lettuce out of the yard and then run back in the house. To have to worry about who's looking in my backyard is not something I'm really looking forward to. And I'm not looking forward to my 140-pound dog getting crazy because somebody's building in the back. Next one. I think Paige said it best about prying eyes. Having girls, especially women, in our backyards, that privacy means something. And even our neighbors across the street and down the hill, it means something to us. And to have you guys just blow us off and just approve it because it brings in money for the city, I'm sorry, you just can't do that to us. Next. Now, we've had sex offenders in our neighborhoods before. Those are the ratios of the sex offenders at this point. Think about adding another 163 units in that area. Our community, Grizzly Ridge area, that's 99 units. You want to double that? Think about how that's going to react, how we're going to deal with that. Next. Couldn't find a good picture of anybody loading up their RV. However, think about it. When we all leave, we all try and watch each other's back and cover each other's houses and keep an eye on things. But there have been times when just having our recyclable cans on the side of the house, somebody's watching when we leave and they're stolen. And then, one neighbor has to tell another neighbor and then we're having to watch out. That's now. Think about what it's going to be with 163 units running around. And at least 4 people in each one of those houses, I would assume. Next. Safety is always a concern. Let's face it. If zoning gets changed to these high-density multifamily units are built, present elevation neighbors will be uncomfortable as they now live in a fishbowl. Real or perceived, the quality of life of the area will deteriorate. Now, you can say that the housing values won't go down, but I am sorry, but the reality is they will. Next. I'm not even going to deal with the traffic and noise everybody else has, so move on to the next one, please. We have all witnessed our once tranquil streets, neighborhoods be affected by the growth. I moved into Marietta when there was 40,000 people there. I thought it was going to be a little country town. Well, it's not. But I'm begging you to please take our feelings into consideration. And I know that feelings aren't supposed to matter in this kind of venue, but the reality is that we are people, we're humans, and our values should matter also. Next. Thank you for your time.
Good job.
Garcia?
Rodrigo Garcia.
Hello everybody, it's my first time doing this, so I don't know what exactly to do here. So, I just bought a house 2 months ago, and I received this through the mail yesterday, and that's why I'm here. I bought a house here because it's a rural area. That's why I bought it. I really love it. It's really good. So since I've been here, from what I've learned, what I've seen from the PowerPoint presentation, it looks like a small ghetto, what they're trying to build. Let's see. It's not good. Obviously, that's why we're all here. And if we could put this up for a vote, and I would say, let's see, raise your hands up if you're opposing. I think the people have spoken. Thank you.
Folks, please. Mr. Garcia?
DJ Williams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. We have talked about a myriad of issues today, but as I looked at the issue, I wanted to know more about the history of Wildomar. So I looked at the Wildomar website and I found the following information that was taken from your website. Wildomar is a community of old and new homes and acreage with horses and other animals mixed with more modern housing tracts, nestled between the cities of Marietta and Lake Elsinore. Wildomar officially became a city on July 1st, 2008, and at that time, home to about 28,000 residents. It continued to talk about just the rural lifestyle that you guys spoke about. When we look at it, again, my wife and I, we live in the Grizzly Ridge area, and when we looked at the rezoning, a lot of definitions kept coming up, and it looked more about some zoning issues, more along the lines of spot zoning. Rezoning in this area is a concern for the immediate surrounding residents, and I would assume that this issue would affect both cities and other residents. Just a couple of issues that impact the nearby Marietta neighbors start with issues of privacy, depreciation of property value. After residents had their property appraised, the appraisal talk about depreciation from 10 to 20% over the span. If you're talking about 99 homes in that area, if you use a median price of $500,000 at a house, 20% value of that is $100,000. 99 homes, that's $9.9 million. And again, as the real estate agent said, guess what? It is all residual out. So when you're 1 mile out, all those things, that's your comp value. But when we spoke previously, when we talked about zoning issues, in respect to the spot zoning refers to applying a map classification for purposes of the municipal zoning ordinance to a particular parcel of land without regard to its surrounding designations. All the designations in the area are which why we purchased our home. So the beauty of the landscape of Riverside is the hills and valleys that sprawl throughout the county. So when we are asking for single family residence, backyard to backyard, if you have a problem, you can go to someone and talk to a neighbor. But at 163 different places, I don't know who to talk to, because if my dog gets poisoned or a window gets broken or what have you, I have no one to talk to. And then when we're talking about, we all looking at the rezoning and spot zoning, can the infrastructure handle that? You guys talk about the police force is handled by RSO. I happen to be a county employee, and I know currently that Wildomar doesn't even pay for the services for the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, but yet we're going to impact them more. So some of these issues continue to hold true, and again, as Sir previously said, yeah.
I'm sorry, but your time's up.
Okay. Well, I would like to be as I close.
I'll give up my 3 minutes. Go ahead. Finish.
Some of the concerns.
I'm giving mine. When he mentioned my name, I won't step up. He could take my 3 minutes.
Okay. As we talked about some of these things, Ms. Langworthy did talk about having the developer meet with us so we can kind of have a meet and confer and talk about some of these issues. We took that to heart. We did some due diligence, we came up with some information, and it was disregarded. So for me, trusting the process is something that I would love to be able to do. But where's the check and balance system if you direct him to do something and he doesn't do it? If you approve it, who's going to hold him accountable at that point in time? So for us, everyone is asking us to just blindly say, oh, it's okay, just go ahead and do it. But again, we need you guys to be able to know that the check and balances are there. When we talked about some of the issues as it pertains to the PC Resolution 2017-08, if we address the issue on zoning, we don't have an issue. I mean, and it's just, it clearly boils down to that. If we were looking at backyard to backyard, I don't think people are going to have an issue with that. When you guys talked about having it being more along the feel for for Wildomar, not a Marietta West, again, meet and confer, let's have a conversation so we can move on with that. But if we can't get that, if we can't get the common courtesy of that, and he's not going to give you guys the common courtesy to to abide by what you're saying? Who's going to be the person to check and balance system for him should you guys move forward with this? Thank you.
Could I have your name?
My last name is spelled B-A-T-I, first name Lewis, L-U-I-S.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois.
Next speaker, Mr. Garcia.
Erica Valgon with donated time by Jean Marie Laponza for a total of 6 minutes.
Hello, my name is Erica Vaughn and I am a resident along the border wall. And I would like to ask some questions that I would like addressed when you're responding. First of all, why this location for high density when there are other suitable locations in Wildomar that would not impede on an established single-family home community? Secondly, why not single-family homes? Veronica, you mentioned like the barn feel on the west side of the freeway, and why can't we just go ahead with a single-family along those lines for Wildomar? However, I guess this meeting is about moving ahead and changes that are made. There have been a few minimal changes, but not enough, and so I have another set of questions. So first of all, why wasn't there a meeting, town hall meeting between our last meeting here and this meeting here? Why can't those homes be single story? At least along the border wall, those units. And what about the sounds of the garages and the cars? So we're a lot about the privacy, but also noise. There's going to be 20, let's see, on each side of my swimming pool, there'll be all those garages opening and closing and cars coming in. Let's see. Oh, why can't the units be set back even further from the wall? Our homes are 75 feet from the wall, and 30 feet doesn't seem enough concession. Also, if they were set back, it would reduce the angle, because basically we're up next to skyscrapers in our backyard. And actually it would benefit residents of both sides of the wall, because we would all have more greenery, more space between our units, and privacy for both sides, well, for future residents and the current residents right now. Let's see here. Oh, and why 163 units? Why couldn't we drop it down to 150 and just take off all the units on the end along that wall and just move it back, more space for everybody? It would probably improve traffic too, parking. And then finally, our main concern is this project is based on money, and that's really hard for all of us residents to sit with, because these are homes that we really care about. We have weddings in our backyards, we have parties, and our homes are really special. And building a high residency, it is not special, and you guys have a chance to make sure that there is something special there for the citizens of Wildomar, so they can have their own party in their backyard and their own weddings, and so you kind of have that chance. And then, so my final question is, if you are going to listen to us, the citizens of your community, and we, I guess, speak on behalf of the future residents of this property, or there's also a car in the parking lot, a yellow Ferrari, with a customized license plate that says Land Ace, and so are you going to listen to us, or are you going to be listening to a businessman who is in the business of developing land? So my final question, and that's hard to walk out of here last meeting and to see that, because this is so personal to all of us, and it's not personal to developers. And then, so my question is, will you please use your power and your votes in accordance with the wishes of all of these people present here who really care, and vote to maintain the privacy and the quality of life for all of the people here, and also, I also speak on behalf of the future residents who you guys could set the stage for making sure that there is a nice home for the future residents of Wildomar along that border. That would we would be happy, to have the future residents have something special like we have. Thank you.
Mark, you're looking down on my family while we're entertaining. That's all I'm asking for, just a solid wall in my backyard, and just about to go through. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia? Olivia Fuentes?
I've been living in Wildomar my whole life, so I'm one of the many citizens who are opposed to the Camelia Project. This will increase our population, which would mean putting more strain on our current resources. With the people that we have now, we have trouble maintaining our roads, ensuring public safety, and providing more emergency services. So for the sake of our city and our future, please keep our home rule.
Mr. Garcia?
Jolene Fuentes?
Good evening. The proposed changes from this out-of-state developer have done nothing to address my concerns of keeping my city rural. I've been a Wildomar resident for 17 years. In fact, we used to ride horses all around this area. And in the past, I believe, 5 to 7 years, we've seen all of the ranches bought up. And there's track homes there now where you can jump from roof to roof. This is not the rural city that I, invested my home and my family in. When I, sorry, my voice is barely here. I'll try my best. When I was honored religious church from the Marines after coming out of Camp Pendleton, I chose Wildomar as my home because it is rural. Because we are horse people, and this was a good place for us to come. It wasn't crowded. We didn't have to wait and drive an hour to get to Temecula, but that's how it is now. Everything has been bought up, and there's higher density. It's not made our lives as comfortable as it used to be. I don't want to be squeezed out of our home. I'm opposed to the rezoning of any parcel from rural to high density or mixed use because we cannot responsibly absorb high density population with our available resources like my daughter just spoke about. We have roads that we can't maintain. We have very limited emergency service resources available to us. We have an increase in crime, and in our last city council meeting, the police chief reported that there in fact has been an increase in crime. There's been an increase in calls for service with their limited resources. So please do not rezone from rural, protect our landscape by making responsible growth decisions. We need to remain rural. I have a vacant property behind my home as well. And I'm concerned that you're going to make changes that I have no say in. Nobody's going to come out to ask me my opinion to say, is it okay if we rezone this area behind you? I have to dig for this information to find out what changes are planned for my city, for our backyard. If you put these two roads together, between Palomar and Jefferson and link those, that's going to be a thoroughfare right through our city, all the way from Marietta to Lake Elsinore. That freeway gets crowded now. Where do you think they're going to go? They're going to get off the freeway and take the side roads to get to where they're going. Please oppose the rezoning, please do not allow that to happen. Thank you.
That is all, Chair.
That's all.
That's all.
Does anybody else wish to speak that hasn't already spoken? Come forward and fill out a speaker's slip.
You can go ahead and speak.
You can go ahead and speak and then give us your name.
My name is Crystal Robles and I live in the Stonehurst community in Wildomar. We bought our house about a year ago, well, a year and a half ago. And we also have a lot of vacant land behind our house. And it's not near the Grizzly Ridge area, but we can see them kind of from a distance. We did be directly behind us. From my understanding, it can't be built on, but across the little creek area, I think there is. We did research it. It is rural. That whole area from the Stonehurst to Grizzly Ridge, from my understanding, is a little bit commercial and then rural. So my concern is that you guys are looking to do a lot of zoning changes because eventually that could affect us as well. I make 6 trips a day from Stonehurst going out to Palomar towards Marietta, and it is very hard to get out of our community already because of the Sycamore Academy traffic. Apparently, and I didn't know this, I always wondered why there was so much traffic. It is a drop-off pickup school only, there's no walking allowed, so I understand now why. And it's very hard to get out. Like, sometimes it takes a long time and there's always near-missed accidents. I think that would just make it worse in that area, and we have a lot of Stonehurst community members here that are also concerned. We have a lot of retirees who also have the same problem, that when they're going out, it's really hard for them to get out already, and I think that their concern is a lot of the traffic issues that we have because we have that little bridge right there, and so we have the school traffic and we have the traffic coming from the stores, and then we have traffic coming from Marietta, and a lot of people use that Palomar from Marietta to get to the Cal Oaks Freeway area, not Cal Oaks, the Clinton Keith Freeway. So that's another concern, is that all these condos are going to be coming towards Palomar to Clinton Keith to get on the freeway, and then when they come home, so it's just going to be a lot more traffic, and each house could possibly have up to 4 cars. I know in my household I have 2 adult kids, so we have 4 cars. People across from us, you know, they have a couple adult kids, they have 3 or 4 cars. So it's going to be a lot of cars coming through there, and that's just more that we as Wildomar residents have to deal with, and we really chose Wildomar because of the rural zoning. That's all.
I didn't fill out that.
Good evening. My name is Mario Weiner, and I live right here in Wildomar. I moved here 3 years ago when I retired. I used to live in San Diego, and I lived in San Diego because my work was down there. But I was waiting until I retired to find a community that was not as crowded and not as much traffic as the area I lived in before. So I moved up to Wildomar. In 3 years, I have seen the traffic increase, which is fine. But now when you're talking about high-density buildings, you're really going to increase that traffic. Right now in Palomar, some of the people in my community, when they go to make a left turn early in the morning, it takes them a while to find a spot where they can sneak in between the cars, coming down Palomar, turning on Clinton Keith to get on the 15 freeway. The 15 freeway ramp now, going south in the mornings, is backed up all the way to Starbucks. That takes a long time to get there. Now imagine another 400 cars coming down to Palomar, making a right on Clinton Keith to get on the freeway. We can't afford that. I know that a city has to grow in order not to die. I understand that, and I'm aware of that. But we need to plan something logically, cleanly, intelligently, not just throw big buildings, a lot of people in the city, just to get some more money and some more income to the city. We don't have the resources. I think we need to put up the resources first before we invite more people to move into our community. We don't have the streets, we don't have the police force, we don't have the emergency service that we need now, let alone increasing our population tremendously by fast growth. So I ask you to please consider that, consider the type of life that we want to have here in this community and not approve this project. Thank you so much.
Mr. Garcia?
Yeah, next we have Peter Hansen.
I'm just going to read a little email here that I sent to the city council, each member, and I said, hello to all. We are voicing our opinion on the zoning change you are considering for this project. We moved here in 1998 because of the rural setting we were searching for. Since we moved here, there have been vast increases in population and traffic. They built World Harvest Church across from Stonehurst, and that increased traffic on Palomar. They have since built a school on their property, and now sometimes we've had to wait as much as 5 minutes to get out of Stonehurst because of people picking up their kids, and which I don't blame them, but I just don't like the 5-minute wait sitting there at a stop sign. If you allow a zoning change for 163 more families to occupy these proposed dwellings, especially with the 4 lanes from Washington and Jefferson merging onto Palomar, which is a 2-lane road, just imagine the traffic jams that will occur on Palomar and surrounding streets. I believe this to be unacceptable, and we want to voice our opposition to the zoning change. Not only will it increase the traffic problems, we also believe it will decrease the value of our beautiful homes in Stonehurst, along with other communities in the area. Please vote no on the zoning change. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to take a potty break of 10 minutes. We'll be back. Oh, up front. Okay, we have a few more speakers, and I would ask those speakers not to repeat what many speakers have already said. If you have something new or additional, the evening is starting to get late. We're going to stay here till we finish, but so if you have something new, we'll move forward now. Mr. Garcia.
Matthew Ferguson.
Hello. I just wanted to point out something there's been a lot of construction going on around the local areas, and one thing I've been noticing is all these new homes, businesses going up. Some of them have been sitting empty for 1-2 years, maybe even longer, and now they want to build more condos, which who knows how many of those are going to be sitting empty. And for a while I was working with the Postal Service, and one thing I noticed in Marietta and Wildomar was delivering the condos. I know some of the concerns were parking, the traffic, having 4 people living in a home. A lot of these condos, you're going to have a lot more in there than 1-2 people living in them, I've noticed. You'll have 2 families sometimes crammed into these condos, families, multiple cars, multiple people with multiple cars, so the traffic's going to be probably a lot worse than just four cars per per floor. You're going to be dealing with maybe 8-10 cars possibility per floor, not just the bare what they consider to be the bare maximum. Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia.
Brett Myers.
Good evening, everyone. I'll keep this short. My name is Brett Myers. I grew up in Escondido. I worked down in San Diego for the past 20 years, and I moved up to Temecula Valley about 12 years ago. Much like everyone else, I was looking for something that I could afford, and I moved up to Temecula and had an apartment at first, and I was there for about 5 years, and I was able to buy a home in Murrieta. Murrieta at the time wasn't as populated, and again, I was able to afford a home. I was in there for a number of years, and I recently purchased a house about 4 years ago now off Baxter. So I'm not up against this new project. My heart goes out to those. I couldn't imagine to learn of a project of this size going in literally my backyard. I moved to Wildomar for the same thing that you're hearing over and over, and I didn't want to repeat what has been said, but I did want my voice to be heard. I moved up to the house in Wildomar for the same reason that you're hearing. It was the cliche, something that was safe for my family, something that was small country that you just are losing in Southern California. Like I said, the traffic coming north has been crazy, but when I got home, it was my sanctuary. I go out my backyard and my neighbors all have property. So I don't have anyone looking in my backyard. But to know that where single family homes were supposed to be developed and it can be rezoned to a high density, multi-family, 30 feet above my back fence, to me is just an atrocity. And basically that can be rezoned almost purely just for profit and losing that community. Houses have to be built, I get that, we are growing, but I would say please, let's not lose what Wildomar is, a small community, family homes that is what everyone is looking for, not just built for profit. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia?
Sandy Renfro.
I'm just trying to get my phone right up. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandy Renfro. I've lived here since 1980. Raised both my girls here, and they're raising their families here. I'm not as close to a lot of these people are to this project. And I'm only here to remind you of the Wildomar's mission statement that I believe was finalized on February 23rd of this year. The City of Wildomar will be a safe and active community, responsibly grown with quality infrastructure while keeping a hometown feel. That's all I have to say.
Please oppose. Raise your hand. Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
Benjamin Morrison.
Benjamin.
Good evening, my name is Benjamin Morrison. I'm a resident of Grizzly Ridge, neighbors with many of the people that will be directly affected by this. I just have three concerns. Some of them are going to be repeated information, not necessarily new, but I will raise my concerns. My wife and I moved here 15 years ago from Los Angeles County for the very reason of privacy and safety. We live in the city of Murrieta, a wonderful city. The city of Wildomar is also a wonderful city. That's up right next to our property. When we moved out here 15 years ago, we knew that vacant lot that is being proposed for development was an RR. So we knew that at some point if it was going to be developed, it was most likely going to be single family homes. So we bought our house in that neighborhood thinking that development would possibly be more single family homes, which would encourage property value increase. Now, we've all endured the property crash of 2008. My property itself has not fully recovered from that impact of 2008. And I'm hearing information from other people who've had appraisers come out that we're looking at a 20% loss if this high density neighborhood is built. And that's another loss that I don't want to endure. because my wife and I have goals. She works with the city of Murrieta. She plans on retiring, and when she retires, we plan on probably moving out of the state. If we suffer another economic loss like we did from 2008 on our equity, that might not be fulfilled. I'm a retired deputy sheriff, honorably retired. I can attest to the lady who gave the information about the crime going up in high density areas. It's true. I worked in cities that had a lot of high density properties, and the crime, for whatever reason, always goes up in those areas. And that's going to butt up right next to my neighborhood. And all of these people have legitimate concerns. And that's all I'm going to speak to tonight. So my time's coming down. So, but I would just appreciate it if you would keep it RR and keep the nice feel so our property values don't collapse. Thank you.
Mr. Garcia?
Lisa Winslow.
Yes, good evening. My name is Lisa Winslow. I live in Wildomar. I am not in the area that's impacted by this project, but my husband and I moved here in 2005 because we were looking for a more rural area. We really appreciate that, and I'm not really saying anything that hasn't been said before, but I just want to reiterate. We moved here because we love having sheep and goats down the street from us. We moved, we have a lot of animals, we wanted a little bit more property. We really appreciate that that's what Wildomar is all about. When the Wildomar became a city, we were under the understanding that that was important to the residents of Wildomar and the people that were running the city council. And we thought that was something that was really important to you all. And I think you're really going on a slippery slope here by having multi-units. I think this is the beginning of something that's going to impact a lot of people. It's the beginning of, like I say, a slippery slope, and I think you need to give serious consideration to that. I also work for Lake Elsinore Unified School District, and I'm wondering if you've thought of the impact of, I know in my job that I see the impact of multi-family residences moving into cities. I assume that's been that's something that you've considered, but that's another consideration that you really need to give serious thought to. But my family and I are really concerned that this is why we moved to Wildomar, and I think you really need to think about the fact that this city is different from Whittier, where we moved from in 2005. We could reach out and touch our neighbor, and now you're talking about multi-families, and I think you need to give that some serious concern. Thank you.
Before we move to the next speaker, we're not going to accept any more speaker chips. I think everything that can be said has been said, but Mr. Garcia, you can finish the slips that you have.
Lori Nunali.
Hi, I am a Wildomar resident. We've built our home here about 17 years ago. I also work in the community I work as a credit processor for a mortgage company. Listening to this proposed project that you guys are looking to approve, I, as a homeowner, have serious concerns about a 163 unit project going in. And somebody had mentioned earlier tonight that they propose that these units to start somewhere around 300,000. I can't even begin to imagine where they think that these values are coming from. The community of Wildomar doesn't support that. My worry is what will end up happening is you've got 163 units that are not going to sell for the values that people think that they're going to sell at. They're going to end up being investor. It's coming in and buying them up, and it's going to end up being a rental project. Exactly. This is exactly what's going to happen. I see it happen all the time.
Yep.
So with that said, I hope that you guys seriously think about that, and it's gonna be a 163 unit rental project is what will end up happening, and then these people won't have to worry about people living in condos or townhomes. It's gonna be a rental development living right next to them. And it absolutely will compromise the values of their properties and ours.
Yes.
That's all.
Mr. Garcia? Jan?
She's on her way.
Bellevue?
Still trying. I'm sorry, I waited to the last minute. My concern was just, I'm Jan Bellevue and I live in Wildomar. I love my city. And I did not plan to speak and I waited till the very end. And then the lady, just a few moments ago, showed my concern. And my concern was with all these units, are our school systems in that area going to be able to handle all those extra children? You can say that there'll probably be at least a minimum of 2 kids in each apartment or each home. And the schools seem to be pretty much at max now. I don't see any new schools being built. So that's my concern. I don't have young children at home, but I have grandchildren that are living with me. And my concern, that was my only concern, and I'm sorry I've taken more of your time. Thank you.
Very good.